High Power, 102.7 FM, the pride of the people.
Amazing Friday morning to you listeners out there. The program you're on to is In the Papers, coming to you from the stables of iPower 102.7 FM. It is a program where we preview and review newspaper headlines and news making rounds in the papers for your listening pleasure. I am Inioluwa Adekoya, and with me this morning I've got the Daily Post newspaper, the Daily Trust newspaper, the Nation's newspaper, the Oak newspaper, and the Punch newspaper. Right about now, I will take a short break. When I get back, I'll give you headlines making rounds in the papers this morning. Yes, beginning on the top of the list of our headlines this morning from the Old newspaper, talking Ondo State. Ondo tops health indices, beats 2030 child survival goal. Still taking headlines from the Old newspaper, still talking Ondo. UNICEF big if strengthen drive to end female genital mutilation. And now moving away from Ondo State, but still on the Oak newspaper, federal government moves to implement 112 as Nigerian single emergency number. Yeah, still on the Oak newspaper, Tinubu pushes Senior Secondary Education Commission Amendment Bill. Yeah, still taking headlines from the old newspaper. Senate okays 403.1 billion naira to strengthen police operation infrastructure. U.S. set to deport 124 convicted Nigerians, and that is coming from the old newspaper. Yes, and now quickly to the Daily Post newspaper. Boko Haram, ISWAP are enemies, says Islamic Council. Yeah, still on the Daily Post newspaper talking PFIPC scandal. Bajabia Miller needs to step aside, says SDP chairman. Yeah, still on the Daily Post newspaper, Nigeria immigration halts U.S. visa application center service indefinitely. On the Daily Post newspaper talking street begging and moving over to Lagos State. Lagos Assembly passes prohibition bill for second reading. Yeah, still taking headlines from the Daily Post newspaper. CAC begins enforcement of company letters rules at the 1st of August. And now to the Nation's newspaper. Tinubu declines assent to 2 bills, seek review. And now to the Punch newspaper. Tinubu meets security chiefs amid troops' salary backlash. Yes, and finally on the Punch newspaper, Tinubu rejects 2 National Assembly bills over constitutional flaws. Yes, and with that, I will take another short break. When I get back, I'll give you more news and more headlines making rounds in the papers this morning. The program is in the papers on iPower 102.7 FM. We will be right back. Yeah, glad to have you back. Like I said earlier, the program is in the papers on iPower 102.7 FM. Beginning from the top of the list of our news this morning from the Oak newspaper, Ondo tops health indices beat 2030 child survival goal. And now to the details. Ondo State has been identified as one of Nigeria's leading performance states in the health sector with remarkable achievement across key healthcare indicators, earning national and international recognition for its sustained investment in public health. This was disclosed by the Permanent Secretary, Ondo State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Francis Akombimu, while responding to an award presented to him during the maiden edition of Health Education Week in Accra, highlighting Ondo outstanding performance in healthcare delivery, disease prevention, immunization, and child survival. He explained that the Federal Ministry of Health has constituted a committee to understudy 12 states that have demonstrated exceptional performance in the health sector, with Ondo State selected as one of the benchmark states. He attributed Ondo's success largely to its commitment of health educators, describing their role as indispensable in achieving positive health outcomes. Akombemu noted that Ondo State currently outperforms many states in Nigeria on several health indices, with some indicators recording results that are nearly twice the national average. He further disclosed that the state has already surpassed the Sustainable Development Goal (SDG) target for under 5 months mortality, which were originally projected to be achieved by 2030. Describing the feat as a significant milestone in the state's healthcare journey. According to him, Ondo child survival and other indicators now rank among the best, not only in Nigeria but also across West Africa. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Oak newspaper with the headline, Ondo tops health indices beats 2030 child survival goal. Yeah, still taking news from the Old newspaper. Federal government moves to implement 112 as Nigerian single emergency number. And now to the details. The federal government has announced plans to engage state governors and emergency response agencies to finalize the nationwide adoption of 112 as Nigerian single emergency telephone number. The development was disclosed in a statement issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communication Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwocha. According to the statement, the decision followed a meeting between Vice President Kashim Shettima and a delegation from the Nigerian Communication Commission (NCC), led by Chairman of the Governing Board, Chief Idris Ibikunle Olorunbe, at the Presidential Villa. The meeting came days after the National Economic Council (NEC), chaired by Vice President, approved the adoption of 112 as the national emergency number across all tiers of government and relevant agencies as part of efforts to establish a unified emergency response system. Shettima directed the NCC to develop a roadmap in implementing the initiative and to collaborate with the National Emergency Management Agency (NEMA) to strengthen emergency response coordination nationwide. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Old newspaper with the headline, Federal Government moves to implement 112 as Nigerian single emergency number. Yeah, still on the Herb newspaper, Senate okays 403 billion naira to strengthen police operations infrastructure. And now to the details. The Senate has approved a total of 403.1 billion for the Nigerian Police Trust Fund (MPTF) for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. The approved budget comprised 170 million from 2025 and 234 million for 2026. The approval followed the presentation of the report of the Senate Committee on Police Affairs by the committee vice chairman, Senator Yunus Akintunde Oyo Central, on behalf of the chairman, Senator Abdul Hamid Malam Maduri Jigawa East. According to the committee, the funds are intended to support the statutory mandate of the Nigerian Police Trust Fund, including the procurement of operational vehicles and equipment, rehabilitation of police barracks and stations, training and retraining of personnel, and other interventions aimed at strengthening policing across the country. For the 2026 budget, the Senate approved 43.78 billion naira for capital expenditure, while allocation to the Nigerian Police Force headquarters at the MPTF headquarters amount to 179.11 billion naira, bringing total capital expenditure to 222.89 billion naira. The recurrent expenditure for 2026 includes 1.86 billion naira for personnel cost and 9.21 billion naira for overheads, bringing the total recurrent expenditure to 11.7 billion naira. Funding for the 2026 budget is expected to come from statutory allocations, including 0.5% of revenue occurring to the Federation account, 0.5% of value-added tax VAT, 0.05% of net profit of companies operating in Nigeria, as well as grants, donations, and other sources. For the 2025 fiscal year, the approved budget includes 159.74 billion naira for capital expenditure, comprising 27.29 billion naira for MPTF headquarters and 132.45 billion naira for Nigerian Police Force. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Herb newspaper with the headline: Senate okays 403.1 billion naira to strengthen police operations infrastructure. Yeah, still taking news from the Herb newspaper. Tinubu pushes Senior Secondary Education Commission Amendment Bill. And now to the details. President Bola Tinubu has urged the Senate to pass the National Senior Secondary Education Commission Amendment Bill 2026. Tinubu's request is contained in a letter addressed to the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and read at plenary recently. Tinubu said in the letter, and I quote, "I am pleased to transmit to the Senate for consideration the National Senior Secondary Education Commission Amendment Bill." It said that the purpose of the bill was to strengthen the administration and governance of public senior secondary education in Nigeria. The president recalled that the amendment to the bill approved by the Federal Executive Council at its sitting on the 30th of April. He expressed hope that the Senate will consider the bill and grant its expenditures passage. The news agency of Nigeria announced reports that the Senate president thereafter referred the bill to the Committee on Rules and Business to further legislative input. NANS also reports that the committee was mandated to report back to plenary within the next 1 week. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Herb newspaper with the headline: Tinubu pushes Senior Secondary Education Commission Amendment Bill. We are still taking headlines from the Old newspaper. You are set to deport 124 convicted Nigerians. And now to the details. The United States has released an updated deportation list containing 124 Nigerians amid President Donald Trump immigration reforms. This was disclosed in a statement on the website of the Department of Homeland Security. The DHS claimed that these individuals have been placed on what it described as the worst of worst criminal registers. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security is highlighting the worst of criminal aliens arrested by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE. It added that the immigration authorities were implementing President Donald Trump's directive to intensify deportations, beginning with undocumented migrants considered to pose threat to the public safety and national security. The published list includes Sunday Adekoya, Sunday Kunkushi, Mpotu Edukudo, Marcus Onigwe, Olani Ojuikutu, Boluwaji Akingusoye, Ejike Asegbuam, Emmanuel Maigun Adeola, Bamidele Bolatiwa, Ifeanyi Nwazomudo, Aderemi Akefe, Solomon Wilfred Chibendu Anebunwa, Joseph Ene, Osman Mamo, Oluwole Odunwo, and a host of others. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Old newspaper with the headline, "You are set to deport 124 convicted Nigerians." Yes, and now I take a flight to the Punch newspaper. Tinubu made security chiefs amid troop salary backlash. And now to the details. Reactions have trailed the disclosure by the Minister of Defense, Christopher Musa, that Nigerian soldiers now earn a minimum monthly salary of 100,000 naira. Veteran and serving personnel described the amount as grossly inadequate. This is as they accuse President Tinubu of failing to implement a salary increment it promised nearly 4 months ago. This comes as President Tinubu convened a security meeting at the presidential villa Abuja, comprising the entire military command, intelligence leadership, and top security advisors, including a special advisor on Homeland. In May, a retired soldier, Abdul Isiaq, said the current pay could not meet the cost of living. He added that the better pay would translate to a better performance of troops. He also described any government paying soldiers 100,000 naira as not a serious one, given hardship troops face. Even at that moment, that money is too ridiculous. Any government paying a soldier 100,000 naira is not a serious one. If you know what they are passing through, you would not offer them such money. We have been crying, but no help. The government has tried, but they can do better. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, Tinubu meets security chiefs amid troops salary backlash. Yes, still on the Punch newspaper, Tinubu rejects 2 National Assembly bills over constitutional flaws. And now to the details. President Bola Tinubu has declined assent to 2 bills passed by the National Assembly citing constitutional consent and defects that required correction before proposed legislation can become law. The Senate was notified of the president's decision through 2 separate letters for read on the floor of the chamber by Senate President Godswill Akpabio. The affected bill are the Raw Material Research and Development Council Amendment Bill 2026 and the Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply Management of the Nigerian Bill. In both letters, Tinubu said he was withholding assent in line of Section 58, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which empowers the president to decline assent to bill and return them to the National Assembly with observation for reconsideration. Explaining his decision on the Raw Materials Research and Development Council Amendment Bill, the president said the proposed law contained structural and drafting defenses that needed to be addressed. He noted that the bill long title did not adequately reflect its principal objective of promoting the development, protection, and processing of Nigerian raw materials. According to him, the title should clearly state that the amendment seeks to provide for the development and protection of the Nigerian raw materials while also supporting local manufacturing and process industries. Tinubu also identified inconsistencies in Section 2 of the bill, saying it presented the Council's function as legislative objective instead of operational responsibilities. He explained that legislative objectives are meant to outline policy goals and not the specific function of an agency, adding that the bill mixed up 2 concepts. The president further observed that provision relating to value addition to raw materials were inserted between sections dealing with the council finances and annual accounts, making the amendment difficult to follow. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline: Tinubu rejects 2 National Assembly bills over constitutional flaws. And now to international matters. Israel shared intel about new Iran plot to kill Trump. And now to the details. Israel have shared intelligence with the United States this week about a new and specific plan by Iran to assassinate President Donald Trump. The reports come as renewed U.S. and Iranian attacks raised fears of a return to all-out war, and after Trump puzzling use of old planes to depart from Turkey after the NATO summit. Washington has monitored a steady drumbeat of intelligence about possible plans to assassinate Trump, but the warning from Israel was new and concerned a specific plot, citing unnamed sources familiar with the matter. The Wall Street Journal, also citing unidentified sources, said the intelligence described a fresh plot. Tehran has for years vowed to eat back at Trump for ordering the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in January 2020 during its first term. When AFP contacted the White House about the report, an unidentified official pointed to Trump remarks from Wednesday. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline: Israel shared intel about new Iran plot to kill Trump. Yes, and now quickly moving to the Daily Post newspaper. Nigerian immigration halts U.S. visas application center services indefinitely. And now to the details. The Nigerian Immigration Service (NIS) has announced the indefinite suspension of operations of Online Integrated Solutions (OIS) services, the company managing Nigerian visa application centers in the United States. This decision, which took effect on the 1st of July, was disclosed in a statement issued in Abuja by the Service Public Relations Officer, Deputy Comptroller of Immigration DCI, Akinshola Akinlabi. According to the statement, the suspension affects visa applicants in the United States, including Nigerians and other prospective travelers seeking entry visas into Nigeria. Akinlabi said all visa applications must now be submitted directly to Nigerian diplomatic missions in the United States, namely the Embassy of Nigeria in Washington, D.C. and Consulate General in New York and Atlanta. He explained that the suspension of OIS services would remain in place until further notice. The immigration spokesperson, however, clarified that the directive only applies to physical visa application submission at Nigerian missions in the United States and does not affect the country's electronic visa platforms. It stated that applicants requiring e-visas could continue to process their application through the official online portal. Akinlabi assured applicants that the NIS had put alternative arrangement in place to ensure the uninterrupted submission, processing and issuance of visas despite a suspension of the visas application centers. He further advised intending travelers to regularly check the official communication channels of the Nigerian Immigration Service and the Nigerian diplomatic missions in the United States for updates on visas application procedure. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, Nigeria Immigration halts U.S. Visa Application Center services indefinitely. Yes, still on the Daily Post newspaper talking PFIPC scandal, Gbajabiamila needs to step aside, says SDP chairman. And now to the details. The national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Professor Sadiq Gombe, has called on the chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbajabiamila, to resign over the controversy surrounding the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, PFIPC. Gombe made this call while speaking with newsmen in Abuja after the party National Executive Committee NEC meeting. According to him, Gbajabiamila should step aside both as chairman of the PFIPC and ask the chief of staff to the president to allow for an independent investigation into the allegations surrounding the council. It represents one of the great institutions, which is the presidency. The right thing to do is for him to step aside for the proper independent probe into the allegation and let them prove beyond reasonable doubt that he is innocent. The SDP chairman also criticized Gbajabiamila's appointment to chair the Committee on State Police, saying it was inappropriate for someone facing allegations to lead such an important national assignment. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, PFIPC scandal, Gbajabiamila needs to step aside, says SDP chairman. Yes, and now heading over to Lagos State, talking street begging. Lagos Assembly passes prohibition bill for second reading. And now to the details. The Lagos State House of Assembly has passed for a second reading a bill seeking to outlaw street begging across the state, with lawmakers expressing concern over the growing number of beggars on highway and other public spaces, describing the trend as a threat to public safety and environmental sanitation. The development was disclosed in a statement issued by the Public Affairs Directorate of the Assembly. According to the statement, the proposed legislation is designed to prohibit street begging and provide a legal framework for addressing what lawmakers described as a persistent social challenge affecting security, public hygiene, and the image of Lagos as Nigeria's commercial hub. During deliberations on a bill at plenary, members of the Assembly offered varying perspectives on its implementation, with many advocating rehabilitation and welfare support for beggars instead of relying solely on punitive measures. The bill comes on the heels of renewed efforts by the Lagos State government to curb street begging. Recently, the government announced the arrest of 396 beggars during a statewide enforcement operation, stating that those apprehended would be profiled before being repatriated to their respective state of origin. Speaking during the debate, the member representing Surulere Constituency 1, Desmond Elliott, urged the government to adopt a humane approach, particularly in dealing with children found begging on the street. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, Street Begging, Lagos Assembly passes prohibition bill for second reading. Yes, still on the Daily Post newspaper, CAC begins enforcement of company letter rules the 1st of August. And now to the details. The Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, has announced that it will begin enforcing statutory requirement on the content of company business letters from the 1st of August 2026, warning that the 14 companies will face sanctions. The Commission disclosed this in a public notice signed by its management and posted on its official X handle. Under the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, company business letters are required to clearly display key details, including the company registered name, registered numbers, director presence, forenames and initials and surnames, any former forenames and surnames, and the nationality of every non-Nigerian director. The requirement applies to all company business letters, including invoices, quotation, official correspondence, and other business document. According to CAC, the enforcement will cover the full application of Sections 304, subsection 1, and Section 304, subsection 1C of the Companies and Allied Act 2020. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, CAC begins enforcement of company letter rules on the 1st of August. Yes, still on the Daily Post newspaper, El-Rufai granted bail with terms not viable, wife cries out. And now to the details. Asia El-Rufai, wife of detained former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, has cried out that her husband was granted bail with terms that are not viable. El-Rufai's wife raised the alarm when she appeared as a guest in an interview on Arise Television Prime Time. She disclosed that the court granted her husband a bail term with two sureties to 100 million naira each and properties worth 200 million naira in GRA Kaduna with attestation form and to Traditional Council of Kaduna State. According to her, efforts to get the bail condition met became impossible. She said, and I quote, the fundamental rights of individuals are granted by Section 4 of the Constitution. It guarantees right to life, right to health, right to interactions. Now, Malam has been accused of offences in different courts, and those charges are clearly bailable offences under the Nigerian law. He had applied for bail severally in the High Court. He was denied bail. In the Federal High Court, he was granted bail with terms that are not viable. In the Federal High Court sitting in Kaduna, the judge granted him bail for two sureties, 200 million naira each, with property worth 200 million naira in GRA Kaduna. The judge also said that the Traditional Council of Kaduna State must give attestation. Now, efforts to get this became impossible. The Traditional Council would not give that attestation. I don't want to speculate. They gave no reason directly. They just said they are not able to do it. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, El-Rufai granted bail with terms not viable. Wife cries out. Yeah, still taking news from the Daily Post newspaper. Journalist Zainab arrest linked to my bail process, not drone. Shawara counters DSS. And now to the details. Human rights activist and former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore has dismissed the Department of State Service DSS explanation for the detention of journalist Zainab Sadiq, alleging that she was targeted because of a role in his bail process and not because she was carrying a drone. Sowore made the allegations in a post on X shortly after the DSS said Sadiq was being investigated for traveling with an unmanned aerial vehicle UAV without the required end-user certificate. He said, contrary to the statement by the DSS, she was not arrested and detained because of any drone. Sowore claimed that security agencies had been after her for some time owing to a closeness. According to Sowore, the drone belonged to him and had been used for media coverage of elections and other public events. He said he personally informed DSS operatives at the Murtala Muhammad International Airport that the drone was his and instructed Sadiq to leave it behind and continue a journey to Abuja. He claimed Sadiq was traveling with the international passport, which was required to fulfill bail conditions imposed by Justice M.G. Umar, and alleged that the real objective of security agency was to prevent the passport from reaching Abuja and frustrate the perfection of his bail. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, Journalist Zainab arrest linked to my bail process, not drone. Sowore counters DSS. Yeah, still taking news from the Daily Post newspaper. You are clueless. Presidency. It's Peter Obi. And now to the details. President Bola Tinubu's special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, has described the Nigerian Democratic Congress NDC presidential candidate Peter Obi as clueless. Ononuga was reacting to an interview where Obi recalled how he called on former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the late Musa Yar'Adua to some critical situations while he was governor of Anambra State. Obi said both former presidents responded immediately to his calls. In an interview with media personality today, Jidenwo, Obi said, forget security, I had erosion in a place called Umuchiana in Ekolobia, and by 2 a.m. my phone rang. They said there was erosion and a house collapsed into it. I left my place in Accra, drove to that site at 2 a.m. and called Obasanjo from there. I said I'm in a village and erosion had just taken place there. A building had fallen and he answered me at 2 a.m. when I had one of the most critical robberies that caught President Yar'Adua and he was calling me daily until the situation was over. Reacting, Ononuga posted on X, Obi was clueless then and he is clueless now. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, You are clueless. Presidency, it's Peter Obi. Yes, and now moving to the nation's newspaper. Fubara to present Rivers 2026 budget today. And now to the details. All arrangements have been made for Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara to present his 2026 appropriation bill to the State House of Assembly today. It was gathered that the governor would appear before the Speaker of the Assembly, Martina Mewule, at the Assembly Quarters Auditorium, which serves as a temporary seating accommodation for lawmakers pending the completion of the ongoing reconstruction of the House of Assembly complex to present a much-awaited bill. An excited source from the government house who spoke in confidence confirmed that the governor was gearing up for his budget presentation today. Today is the D-Day. The thing you in particular have been looking for will happen today. The governor will present his budget. Another source from the House of Assembly also confirmed that the lawmakers will sit today. The source who spoke in confidence that the governor would likely appear before them to present his 2026 budget. He said, and I quote, the House is sitting today and the governor will likely appear before the lawmakers to present his 2026 budget. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the nation's newspaper with the headline, Fubara to present Rivers 2026 budget today. Yes, and finally, on the Nation newspaper, court remands Miyetti Allah's president over alleged $2.63 million money laundering. And now to the details. A federal high court in Abuja has ordered the remand of national president of Miyetti Allah Qatar, Kore Bello Bodejo, in custody of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), pending the determination of his bail application. Justice Nyang Eko issued the order after Bodejo was arraigned for alleged money laundering. The FCC filed against him is accused, among others, of laundering funds estimated at $2.63 million. Bodejo pleaded not guilty when the charge was read to him, prompting the prosecuting lawyer Wahab Shitu SAN to seek a date for trial. Defense lawyer Ahmed Raji SAN, who did not object to the trial date, prayed the court to first hear the defendant's pending bail application, a request Shitu did not oppose. Moving the bail application, Raji argued that the alleged offences with which Bodejo was charged bordered on money laundering, which is a bi-label offence under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act (ACJA). He urged the court to grant the defendant's bail. In opposing the bail application, Shitu noted that there was information in the defendant's affidavit which revealed that Bodejo had been a guest at the Department of State Service (DSS) for other offences. If that news aligns with your interest, it is on the nation's newspaper with the headline, "Court remands Miyetti Allah's president over alleged $2.63 million money laundering." Yes, if you're just joining us, the program is in the papers on iPower 102.7 FM. Our time is far spent on the program this morning, but we will go on a short break. When I get back, I will call it a wrap on today's edition of the program. Yes, and with that, we've come to a wrap on today's edition of In the Papers. We hope this review has kept you informed of conversations making rounds